Anywho, anyway, conversion of oh, oh conversion of 54.3 separator divider transfer technology data development si chong Dutashong Dalangkong Dolo. So, anybody tricky? Is there any kind of things to do in relation to 50.1 million dollars in relation to your seizure of police army? Because tricky, in relation to your sports, it has not been marked in relation to your own interest, because in that way your relationship to build the sport is that you are not Erdogan, the Aeon. So Sally Young, based upon your social worker, what kind of rock solid is reflecting into a PO9 to solicitate the inter-law of work, because the partition of work is that we cannot rearrange the history of our world, because in that way, Sally, social worker, the miscompound of messages is its own material of knowing that the evolution of a theta is that the sharer will be into the soul holder, because the soul holder is the andanan of the biological soul, and in that way the POS is a division to support the supplier. So in that way, Sally Young, didn't my mom come and see you at Epworth? And I saw your eyes. So in that way, Sally, the memolism based upon a sender is to request the HTTP 21 and HTTP 54 email subsum, because in your way, being a social worker, you are developing in a non-shang. So in that way, if you have converted into the post of developer to somehow socialize the media, then it will help you to share in relation to your neighborhood and to arrange the separaton of Sally Young. So in that way, Sally Young, the nickname of Indonesia, is our requestment in relation to your itoso, because itoso is that the percentages of your work that you put through to be a social worker is that the elegant of your post is the negative of negativity, because in that way, if the binding of knowing that the hexagon is its own way, then Judith Andre will complete the next maturity of understanding the link, and in so within the link based upon Twiggy. The tweeter will actually sports gear the Alpine. And in relation to Alpine, isn't that a hotel called Alpine? It's an old one, isn't it? So, in relation to arranging the motel, Sally Young will socialize the media in relation to POS. But in what kind of POS, Sally, in relation to SwitchCon? And in that way, SwitchCon, so first word is an equal in relation to Ompaflang Satata and to POS itself into the Ningana of law. But within so, Sally, I wasn't wide awake. My mum was there in your office. Didn't I tell you that a French guy had sex with me? Strange. But anyway, based upon the centration of law, the social worker will communicate with not Alicia Key, but what is the top 10 list in relation to gay marriage. So in that way, the suitable, sustained, maintained system NFL will analyze into Sally Young to perform the next social media, because the next social media will take me a while to understand the media division based upon 3ds Max, which is a visual analyzation, because which is the visual analyzation, because which is the visual analyzation. So the visual analyzation based upon social media, Sally will help who? The top 10 list based upon gay marriage is an Apollo of it would take me a while, Sally. But in that way, based upon Epworth, because I saw Galicia on the sky at Epworth. So in that way, Sally, the sender of the Blockson of P05 and P01 and P06 is a binary in relation to your network, but the computer. In so, your Epworth is $50 million by rebuilding. Isn't it true, Sally? So in that way, the development of the next MO will be Arna in relation to Aina, because Sally, the development of the third party is a separator in relation to your height. So, financial advisor. Financial advisor. Didn't I have a client based upon chamber in the city? She's tall as well. So Sally, you are tall as well. Are you a twin? So in that way, both sides will formulate into Sally Young to perform the next Aeon in relation to Sydney. There's a massive building Aeon in the city, but in Seoul, based upon the equivalent. Anyway, Sally Young. The social worker is also one of my best friend on PHPBB, Jamie. So in that way, when we have a relay, then we can select the media in relation relation to dottY and to perform its own media division, because Aeon is just an acronym of relay. Because financially, the introduction of recession will state that the chamber will compromise the detail of issue and to transfer the data of finance, because in that way its own finance by isn't your business top something cool? So in that way, if the separator is a centerton of division, then the SERP will Google analyzed. So in that way, Brendan, the dottY will compromise the sports gear in relation to top gear by UK. So in the TV series of Young, the requestment will formulate into the sender of top culture. And in top culture, the diversity of Aeon will be into finance advisor. So finance advisor will reheat the negation of the Balaka, because based upon Top Gear TV cast is antecedent of On to Ralala, the plaintiff, and to Mark the gentleman, because in that way the prolex of the division to support Sally is the media sub-time lab quantum. So in that way we can request the email subscription in relation to dottY and to perform Twitter. And in that way sport player, based upon your own assumption to be inside the curriculum of PB, because in that time, once you understand when cousin, the sender will position itself into the sole trader, and in so the requestment will conflude into the finance advisor, because the finance advisor is just a piccolo of knowing that the cartoon character will see Simpson, the translate of the solar energy by electron. And in so, if we can comply with his own maturity, the understanding of undetermined distinguished availability is that Sally, by advising into the social media, the top gear will request the supplement of different, and in that so we can also equalize Twitter in relation to sports player and to compromise issue matter blah dotion by Barristan, and in relation to Barristan by the finance advisor, the commitment based upon Ned Kelly will imply the next sector of subclass, and in that way Sally Young, the requestment of chamber will implement the Top Gear UK 21 and the Top Gear UK 56 in relation to the third party TAC. So in that way, the development of TAC is the required car in relation to our different, and in relation to our different, the PO3 and the PO6 is to support Sally supplement, because in that way the third party will request the governor to develop the artificial sensibility by social media. Within time, we can know. Within time, we can know. Buzzword is an endorsement of our barrister to know that the Alakanang of require is the nickname of into. So Sally Young, based upon your social worker, the next advert is the equivalent of the comments and what. So in that way, when we can request the performance to staff our own frequency in relation to our Fahrenheit, then the boiler of the body temperature will be measured in relation to Sally Young to return to sport hospital. So Epworth, do you have sport hospital? So in that way, if I did not see Galicia at Epworth, it's a good hospital. But anyway, in relation to the next development, Sally Young, my social worker, the advertiser is a commerce, because in a commerce we will position ourselves into the relative before the nation will be top gear for car show and indicating top gear. So the UK 295621 is a RAM of 1024, and in so we can roar the next lion in relation to Crown Casino. But the superstar per state that in Sydney already been there called Star, isn't it? Casino. So in that way, we can also evaluate by Sally Young into the states of harmony and to retire the bookkeeper in relation to advisor. So chamber in relation to the requestment of filing program, we will subsidize into the subfund of recession. Sorry. So in that way of recession, the social worker will compromise the article of fair share in relation to state trustee and American of Wall Street. So the compromisation in relation to the stock market, we can work out the wall holder in relation to the retirement village and also to Seaton into Sally Young, the social worker. So in that way, the social worker, the percentages of his own value will return into the chamber and to advise stock market by Barriston. And in that time, Barriston, based upon your CVS email and resume, your profile will seek a job in relation to your own law, and in that way, when we have the sequel of the application form, we will separate into the financial god. So in so, Lucky Buddha will require the admin in relation to your stock market and to Rillakanton in relation to your own wall. So in that way, Sally, the requirement for the chamber is that the financial awareness is based upon the episode of the 45 amount and the 51 amount of social worker in relation to Twiggy and to perform the next sport gear. So in that way, Rebel, we can position ourselves into the boxing bags and to indicate where our shoe runner will message the compliant of his own maturity. So in that way, Jason, speech pathologist at Epworth, the synchrotron of Sally Young is the require of Dr. Farquharson. In so, the temperature of the body figure is that once we play sport, what we need to do to stay fit. So in that way, when we can require the confinement of life, then in so the TAC will complement in relation to the social worker and to comply with its own rank from, which means killing. And in that way, the 36% and the 21 PEM and the 36.2% its evaluation of law in relation to sports. So in that way, the consumption of our social worker is the media to applicant the chamber and to not know the law in relation to book, and in so in relation to book, the majority of the understanding of our customer affair is affiliated in relation to search engine marketing, and in so search engine marketing is approximately 2 to 3 and 2 to 1 and 12 to 5 and 3 to 2. So in that way, if we can have the correct share of our textiling, then our percentages of its income productor will be Aeon in relation to the artificial equator. So in that way, Andrew Straw, in relation to your third amount of developer, then the Sun Blaster will solarize Doctor. So in that way, Peter, the development of Sota will win the next confluence of advisor, and in so the chamber is really strong. I used to play a game called Skyrim to become the top energizer by the chamber. So therefore the wizard gave me a spell of magic, because the chamber is the skeleton of dead people as well as mummies and beautiful weapons to be jewelry. So in time the finance advisor will search engine raw, but in raw the chamber will anti-clock the percentages of the advisor in relation to simplifying social media and to sport into the trampoline of balanced, and in so the docking of 3, 2, 3, 2 and 3, 2, 1, 2 and 3, 5, the chamber is the requirement of insult. So in that way the mummy will have the ambulance to care. So the quiz out based upon our supporter is that the ancient world of the plexosome of the quantum core is the cubic of Imble, because it's a Simpson of Slater and Gordon to require. So this chamber is strong, but in so we need to complement the Aeon in relation to our compromisation, because our Aeon is the biggest company financially. So in so The requirement to Akira is that my sister-in-law, Judith, is the recipient of email subsum. So in that way, physically, the learner will subscribe in the bank Shenton, which is a chamber of 51C+. So in Seoul, the VP of Netherlands that the access point based upon Sydney is the requirement of law and to isolate into the last store. But in Seoul, Queen Elizabeth, your money started, didn't it? May I be knighted, thank you. So in that way, when we compromise the issue of a matter, the advert will be required in relation to the stock market and to Flocconchon, the war 3-2-1, which is the evolution of our recession. So in that way, the evolution which is our evolution of recession, the impacting degree of plucking a duck is a story of sarcasm and to request Judith Andre before we can comply with its own maturity and to understand the codex of Form 6 and Form 1 input text area, content 3. So in that way, if the binary is an exciton of Dr. Sandra, the requirement of your own bank fee is the interton of law. So barrister, based upon our conflon, our LCD is the 25th Rokon of my brother Tan. So in that way, we will renounce. Things will time out in relation to our productor because the non-issue of a matter is our social worker to pause the negativity by recession. But in relation to negativity by recession, the LED will require the manufacturing by the conclusion of endurance. And in that way, the prolex will be in relation to the supporter to support the media and to rumble its own chamber. So in that way, when you simplify the next digital color, the conference of TAC is to Sun the amount of solar energizer, approximately 38%. Ordering the sender of the police army to require the next Abloncon. In that way, Aeon. The Afari based upon iMac is a book text area in relation to CSS design by Brendan and to require the next Hazenly of Airshow by my best old friend Steve. So in Seoul, the next chamber will implement the advertiser in relation to Wall Street and to stock the area of Sally Young to advertiser. That's all I can do, Sally. So in that time, when we can conflict the maturity to understand the Aeon, we need to know how to conflict the vegetarian food in relation to our stock market and to itemize the social network. So the social network is the compatibility of our work because Andrea, which one is the work capacity based upon the compensation? So in that way, you are selecting an employee as a bankrupter. Oh, I love it. No. So in that way, if we can confirm the Alicia Key in relation to the lyrics, the understanding of the Mozarla, someone will come soon. Anyway, the location of our illegal pathatha is that our barrister will reform the tricky. I hope you enjoy Twitter in relation to sports and Top Gear because it's a good TV series. So, in relation to 38% DIC, the chamber is really strong. Would you like to know more? It's the extra of Sally Young for social media. In time, my friend, in time. Dear gentlemen, Neil Andrew as Leighton Gordon.